Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
There's something wrong. There's something wrong. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it's there. Like a splinter, driving you mad.
Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in. Taking Neo to see her.
See who? The Oracle.
Hi, folks. We're happy you could join us again for another episode. This is going to be a little bit of a departure from how we normally do shows. This is going to be a little more informal, and we're calling this series Journeying with Ormus. So in our last episode, we interviewed Joe de Kadt, and he sort of put his documentary, All the Gold You Can Eat, and his website is allthegoldyoucaneat.com. He put this Ormus substance on the map for us, and he brought it into existence so we know what it is. So since then, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've learned how to make it, and a couple of our friends are experimenting with it. They've been taking it for about a week, and we're just playing with it. Now, we're going to have a little bit different experience than most people because we believe, based on what I've said or what I've researched, we believe that Ormus activates and raises your level of awareness. So it makes you, quote unquote, spiritually sensitive. It simply raises your level of awareness, along with some supposed health benefits. So we were curious as to what would happen with people who are already pretty highly aware. What would happen if they started taking Ormus? So we're going to document this in a series called Journey with Ormus, and we're going to do some podcast episodes here, interview some folks, and we're recording video journals over the next 12 months to document over time, because one of the things we understand about Ormus is it seems to have a cumulative effect. So we're going to move forward with that and see how things go. But tonight we've got Keith, who's had one dose. He's my partner in crime and co-host. And I've got Tony, who's been on the show before. He's been taking it for about a week, and he's a medium. He's sensitive. And we've got, I'm really happy to have him, Bill Kurd of the band Kurd, who's also a team member for Houston Ghost Research. He's got some physical ailments that he struggles with, and he's also sensitive as well. He's a medium, so he's been taking it for about a week, and we've been keeping notes and trying to figure out how this substance is going to affect us, and we're just going to jump into a conversation and start trying to piece together how this stuff affects not only the human body but the human psyche. So I've decided that I'm going to start documenting my research and how this stuff happens, or how this plays out, on a website that I'm going to register this afternoon called Milk of Gold, milkofgold.com, actually. So if you're interested in what's going on, you can check that website out. We're keenly interested in feedback that anybody has. Feel free to talk to us through our website, higherconsciousnessradio.com. Let us know what's going on. Talk to us on Twitter. We want to hear feedback, so let us know. So we're going to jump right into the conversation. We'll just go down the list of what you guys have experienced. Let's start with kind of the first and second doses, what you experienced, and then what's developed from there. So, Bill, you want to take a crack at it first? What was your first dose like?
Oh, that would have been...
that's when you were over here on Saturday, right?
Yeah, that's a week ago today. I really didn't have a tremendous reaction until later on in the afternoon. I mean, I started... It never bothered me at all. I started to feel kind of where I was seeing things vividly, colors and stuff like that. But when I drove home, by the time I got home, and I think I actually texted you about it, that afternoon, later in that afternoon, man, I was feeling really, really sharp, real keen. My perception, I could feel, I could actually see really well, feel like I knew everything that was going on around me. It was really an interesting experience, and it's just snowballed since that day.
Tony, what about your first dose or so?
Not much different than that, actually. We, of course, it started that same Saturday afternoon. I think the first thing I noticed was that the colors were a little bit clearer. I think I made a comment, the grass was really green. But it was just kind of a general clarity started to come around. A little bit more aware of things around me. Not so much as far as like a radar yet that we have with our sensitivities, but just a general awareness of what's going on around me, and some of the, like I said, the colors were getting a little bit more vivid, a little bit more clarity to them. As subtle at first through Saturday and Sunday, not a whole lot, just kind of in general that I could, if I did turn on that radar, it was very prominent very quickly with very little focus. I did notice that. So it was really, once we started in there right around Monday or so, it started really picking up.
So for those...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just give me a second. So for those folks who are listening, Tony's actually a medium, a psychic medium, and what he means by turning on the radar is turning on that ability to sense and see the other side. So that's one of the reasons we're really interested in this stuff, is because the descriptions we read early on about what Ormus is and what it does, that other people were giving as they started taking it, is that same sort of psychic awakening experience. So we were wondering what it was going to do to people who were already taking it. So, Bill, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to pretty much comment on Tony's radar thing. I hadn't really had any, of my intuitiveness increased or supercharged. Maybe not until, well, maybe I noticed it today. I hadn't noticed it. It's pretty much just sharpness, and I'll get into the pain stuff later. But I was going to mention today that radar that Tony was talking about. Of course, he's a medium, and I'm just intuitive. But I was walking back from getting my mail today, and I saw in this carport a red pickup truck. I didn't see nobody was around. I didn't see anybody. But as I walked away, I could tell just by focusing a little bit of energy towards the middle of my noggin, I saw that truck backing out and pulling away. And by God, when I turned around to look, it was doing exactly what I had seen it doing in my head. So that part is probably something I'm going to start realizing from today forward. I hadn't noticed it, nor had I really tried before today.
Something I wanted to ask Bill and Tony both. When you took the dose, how long was it after you took the dose that you started noticing the effects? And did they come on all at once, or did they seem to kind of fade in?
Tony?
It was kind of a gradual thing. Probably in that first half hour, I started noticing the colors being a little bit clearer. Like I said, I think we were sitting on the back of the porch, and James is like, man, this grass is starting to look really green around here. It's just a little bit brighter, more vivid. The rest of the stuff started coming on probably the next day, and it was hitting with very little effort. I believe I texted James that I was sitting in my office, and I could tell you where every animal was in the house, where my wife was, and what position she was laying down in. And then just I wasn't even focusing on that.
Bill, I was there that day, and didn't you say something yourself about the leaves being green?
Yeah, I did. Within that first half hour, 45 minutes, it was like, but it was kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, where she crashes in the house and it's all black and white, and then all of a sudden she opens the door and it opens up in all these brilliant colors. It was kind of like that. and like Tony said, anything else was pretty gradual. I really didn't start feeling extreme. I think I mentioned to you guys. In fact, I think one of you looked at me and said, "Bill's not feeling it yet." But it was the colors that were amazing to me at the beginning, and then later on in the afternoon, just like Tony, the sharpness and the perception, and all that nice, clean, clear cut, sharp stuff came out, and the next day was amazing. So Sunday was just amazing.
So I think it's probably important to notice or to note though that well, Bill, I would really pretty much at this point call you a medium. You're able to go other places that are not there in your immediate vicinity and see and communicate with spirits, and that's pretty much the definition of medium. So it's going to have a different effect on people who are sensitive and aware of that level of reality as opposed to other people. If somebody's not on that level of awareness, it's probably not going to have that same sort of effect until, my guess is, we don't know yet, until they take enough and it opens them up to be able to perceive that stuff. So what about day 2 for you guys, or second dose, Bill?
Well,
or 3, wherever you saw the change.
I would say day 2, day 3 actually on Monday is when it really started to kick itself. And, for the listeners, I have advanced rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm on actually cancer drugs, methotrexate. I do an injection every Sunday of 80 mils. So I'm on a lot of biologics and stuff like that. But I noticed, and those are mainly for pain, but and to fight the disease. But I noticed on Monday that a pain level for me that's usually on a 10 scale, usually daily throughout my whole body. I'm running 5 or 6, and that's no joke.
And is that with or without meds?
With the meds.
Okay.
With meds. I mean, they just don't really help too much. But I would say on Monday, I started to feel a significant ramp down in that. And I think we were talking about that earlier before the broadcast today, that I'm down to a level 2 from a 6 significantly. And I can't attribute that to any of the biologics that I'm taking, because I do that regularly and they don't knock it down that much. So everybody can take that, the way they want to. You could say placebo effect, and we were talking about that the other day. Any placebo effect is a good effect anyways. However,
I'll take it even if it works.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that it is a placebo effect, though. I think it actually really is doing what I think it's doing. It's made a big difference, really big difference.
So are you still taking the pain meds?
Oh yeah, I'm going to do one more methotrexate tomorrow night, and then I think I'm going to skip a week and see how it goes. I can do that. It's an as-needed drug, but they got me doing it every week, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow, but I'm going to do a half a dose. I'm going to do 40 mils and see how I do through the week.
Yeah,
and
keep us posted on that for sure.
How have you been supplementing the Ormus? Have you been doing the 2 tablespoons a day? Is that the correct dosage, James?
2 teaspoons a day.
Okay, yeah. Is that what you've been doing, Bill?
Started that way, yeah. The past 2 days, I've ramped it up just a little bit, about 2.5 tablespoons, maybe equals out to 3 teaspoons a day, as I do like 1.5 and then 1.5.
Okay.
Really makes me wonder what would happen if somebody just chugged a whole bottle of this stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, that might not want to know that. Just like, we all know high pH is good for you, but I have this stuff you add to your water that raises the pH level, and it says on there, this is concentrated high pH. Don't drink this stuff, man.
Right. Tony, what about you the next couple of days after your first dose?
Yeah, same thing for me. It was Monday when things started really kicking in, and it actually kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm right in the middle of nursing school. We've got just started a new class, because they're all broken up into 8 weeks. So it was in my second 8 weeks, just starting up a new class, and our first test, major test, was Tuesday. So Monday was a very, very big study day, and Monday is when everything really kicked in. So I was having a really hard time keeping focus as far as on a singular item on the study material in front of me, because it seemed like my head just exploded. No matter how much I tried to focus in on what I was doing, I was keenly aware of everything going on around me. There was just no way around it. I felt like I had 1,000 things going on at one time. And I mean, I use binaural audio a lot for different things, for meditation, for working on my abilities, for focusing everything. And I actually had to go to some pretty powerful focusing audio to be able to even concentrate on the test. And I was actually kind of worried about it, that I was going to have trouble on the test because of that I wouldn't be able to focus. But by Tuesday, I think it may have been just maybe an adjustment period, because by Tuesday, I was on my game. I rolled into that test and just destroyed it. I was focused. You couldn't stop me. Everything was coming to me like I'd been doing it for a long time. And even into Wednesday, working at the clinic, on the second time working in that pediatrics area, and I was working it like I'd been there for months. So it seemed like everything was starting to really come together there. And then we also had, I think Bill and I both talked about this back and forth, there was like a sound, a background noise, almost a buzz kicking in that was picking up on. I guess explain it, I've had tinnitus in my left ear since 1980. So I have that a buzz in my left ear as a point of reference 24/7 ever since then. Well, this noise was coming from behind my ears.
Yeah, it's
weird. Give it a location.
It feels like it's coming from around the crown of your head. It's really strange.
Yeah, it started there, and over the next day or so, it moved up to around the top of my head, and then kind of faded a little bit as I accommodated, where I had to, now I just hear it if I listen for it.
Same here.
Just gotten used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Tony, I'm curious. You mentioned you do the listen to the binaural beats. I'm into that kind of thing too. What did you have to switch to in order to go back to normal or whatever?
Well, I had to go to one. Usually I'll go to one that's just a kind of a calming. They have some that are just either a straight focus or a learn and retain memory. You know, they're all a lot of them focus on different things. You know?
Right.
And I had to go to one that was a straight up focus with. It had extra things in it. There was subliminal messages going on in the background. You couldn't hear that was telling you to focus and telling you to stay on target on what you were doing. And this is what you really wanted to do. I mean, I had to really do that. And then also, normally I can run it really low in the background. And if I use the isochronic ones and not necessarily the binaural one, you don't have to run those solo. You can have them going on in the background and have music going over it, and they still do the job. I couldn't do that. I had to use the specific binaural, different sound in each ear, and that's the only sound I could be playing just to be able to focus on the stuff in front of me, because everything was going on around me.
Well, you know, I was
keenly aware.
Right. I only took the Ormus dose once, and I got the distinct feeling my body went to a completely different frequency, and that would maybe explain what you're talking about, why it would have interfered with that.
Yeah, but, you know, if I can throw myself in there real fast, for the people that are listening, it's not something that you can just go out, you hear us talking about it, and you go out, oh, I'm going to get some of that stuff and try it. I studied it for weeks. When James first started mentioning it to me, I studied it for weeks and learned as much as I could about it. So I was expecting to receive that high frequency pitch around the crown of my head. If you just go out and try it without studying, or you don't know what to expect or know how to handle that high frequency around your head, it's going to drive you nuts. So I would suggest anybody out there that thinks they want to try taking Ormus, go ahead and do it, but I would really read about it so you know what to expect and know where you're going when you get it. Because you could go nuts.
referring to that sound of silence that rings so silently that it's extremely loud. It's a loud ringing in your ears.
Yeah, they call that, it's a sound beyond the sound.
Oh, okay. I've heard that for a while, and the Ormus just made it louder is all.
Ancient Chinese used to call it the Hu, H-U, the Hu.
The Who?
Yeah.
The what?
Not the band.
That's exactly what I thought when you said that, the Who.
So I think it's probably important to mention that I've been taking it too for the last couple of days, and I took my first dose on last Saturday with Bill and Tony and Keith, and I'm sensitive as well, and can perceive spirits, whether you call that a medium or sensitive or whatever. But I did not pick up any audio at all. I didn't get that tone, which is pretty typical for me because I don't allow entities to talk to me. That's one of my rules and how I interact with that level of reality. But I did notice keenly a very distinct and not unpleasant, but maybe a little disorienting that if you were trying to focus on something initially, a tremendous buzzing from about the middle of my head, not a sound, but a buzzing sensation from about the center of my brain up, and sort of focused on where you would say the crown chakra is, right? So it's almost like that was just vibrating a
pineal
lot.
gland area?
Yeah, I thought that, and there's supposed to be an interaction, right, between this stuff and the pineal gland. Yeah, it's like that thing was just had a D-cell battery in it, and it was just going to town.
There are blogs out there. I've read that in a few blogs from people who have been taking Ormus for a while, a vibration they feel.
So our friend Ren, who's also sensitive, took his first dose today, and he had the exact same experience that I had. He had not an audio, but a very, very intense buzzing, and a keen sense of, as Tony described, and I had this as well. I just forgot to mention it. I have this radar. It's what we call it in Houston Ghost Research. This radar where I can sense and am aware of entities, be they alive or dead or whatever. And I can turn that on and off with practice, right? So normally I don't have it on. This stuff engaged it on its own. It turned my ability on, and I didn't try to shut it off because it wasn't unpleasant. But it gave me a sense of awareness and clarity that I don't normally have. Normally, if I turn it on, I can only sense something within, 10, 15 feet unless I focus. With this stuff, when it turned it on, I got an exponentially large degree of awareness of resolution in that radar, to the point where I could not only sense me and Keith, I could sense the neighbors, 75, 100 feet away in their houses and what they were doing, and I was impressed by that for me. But your mileage is going to vary. I don't think if you don't have the ability to be able to do that, you don't know how to turn yourself on in that way. You're not going to get that out of your first dose, I don't think.
Well, here's a by comparison, because on my first dose, what I did is it put me in that level of awareness where when I do notice things, I noticed everything I would normally notice if I was totally aware of everything that was going on. So everything I would normally see, I saw. Everything I would normally feel, I felt. Do you know what I mean? Where I didn't have to get there, like you were saying earlier. I didn't have to quiet my mind and meditate and get in my calm place and try to listen. I was just instantly there, and I was aware of what was going on around me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's kind of brought up something that as we're making video logs on this, that I brought up, that I'm sort of delaying seeing what I can really do so that over a period of time, if you do this every day, the changes are subtle, you may not notice it. But if I hold back for a little while and then do it, it can be a little more drastic and really make a note of what's expanded. But there also comes into play we still want that feeling of control of what we're doing. And there's a little bit of that in there. Because I actually had an episode today where we're driving down the street in a car, and there's a backstory to it. There's I scanned one of the girls up where my wife works. She's a nurse, and let them know what baby she was having, male or female. Got it right. Well, my wife started talking about one of the other nurses was going nuts, wanting to know, wanting me to scan them to see what kind of baby they were having, everything, and just talking about it. I'm driving the car down the road. I was gone. I was at their house, and I was scanning her.
Oh, wow. You just projected there instantly.
Talking about it.
Well, Lori does that stuff all the time, but she has a focus. It's not
right.
It's not spontaneous.
Right. I don't like that. I want that control, and it's just I'm driving down the road.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like I know what it is. Write it down on a piece of paper, stick it in an envelope.
I'm sorry, officer. Yeah. I wasn't here for the moment.
Right. Most of the stuff I get like that's random too. When I get things, most of them have been random. I haven't controlled them.
But it's like you said, to be able to do that, there's processes we go through. We get in a dark room or just a quiet area, and we have our own whatever that we focus and I guess if you want to call it power up to do that, so that we have control of it, and we're directing it and controlling it.
We get in the right state is what that comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tony, you said I'm going to try to do something. I'm holding off. I'm going to do something. Well, I know what you mean by that, but folks listening don't. So can you go into that a little bit and explain exactly what your little experiment and what you're holding off for?
Well, one of the things that I found out early on that I was really good at is we call it spirit remediation. That's basically cleaning out an area. Somebody's there, an entity that's there that's not supposed to be. I can remove them from that area quickly and forcefully. This is something that we discovered pretty early on that I was very good at, that I was able to do a very impressive job with it first. So because my time is limited with school and everything, I kind of limit what I focus on to keep getting better at. So I concentrate on what I know I'm already strong at to get even better at. So I've become a very powerful cleaner, if you want to call it that. Sort of like a bouncer. If we rolled in a team, a house, and you got a nasty spirit, I'm the bouncer that rolls in and he does not want to jack with. So we've got that. Well, if this is magnifying it, I want to see what I can do with this. So my intention is to wait a couple of weeks, so probably run the end of next week, and then run a little experiment. And just we may do something like tell Bill, sometime during the day, I'm coming in your place, and I'm going to level that apartment building. And just see if you can pick up on it. Give us a call when you feel it. And then see what happens from there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that changes perception or whatever. Maybe for a better experiment, since Bill's on this stuff too, you should be doing that with Keith. See if you can force something onto his level of awareness.
That could be an option as well.
I mean, hey, I'm up for it. Just whatever y'all want to do.
Let's just not do it when he's driving.
Right.
One of the things about this stuff that I kind of dig is dreams. Man, they rock.
Oh yeah.
My mind is telling me a story every night. This week, it's been the same dream or the same theme and a different story or a different part of a story. It's just been a rocking experience. My dreams are just awesome. That's enjoyable. It's really cool.
So, yeah, can you go into a little bit more detail? I mean, what I just experienced this literally last night for the first time, but I don't want to taint your description of what that is with what mine would be.
Taint.
I don't know how
I did say taint.
I don't know how to describe them. They feel real. The senses, your touch, sight, hearing, your smell. I mean, the dreams just feel real. They're just you're in them, and I don't know really how to explain that. Tony might.
It is.
Tony
it is
touched on
tough
that.
to explain. I only got to experience it once, which was at James's house. Which, for some reason, when I go to James's house, I sleep better and have better dreams anyway. But that particular night, I had taken the Ormus, and it's like you said, Bill. It's kind of tough to explain. It really is. It makes you feel like you're really there.
I know why you have better dreams. Anal probes.
Oh, you better not, man. You haven't named the aliens yet.
Yeah, it's just it's a better vibe, man. I mean, not that your house doesn't have a good vibe, but I think that's what it is. And we have
have a neutral vibe here. You got a positive vibe,
we have some really thought-provoking, deep, interesting conversations, and that helps too.
That's
awakening conversations.
Very stimulating.
So, Tony, dreams?
Yes, and it's been kind of a mixed bag with me because there may be a psychological reason behind this, but for as long as I can remember, I do not remember dreams. Within seconds of waking up, they're gone. I can tell you they're bad. I can tell you they were good. I can tell you they were intense or messed up, but I couldn't tell you details. If I remembered it, I could tell you details. Something bad was about to happen. Generally, but this last week, I can tell you that they're way more intense, way more colorful, way more detailed. And then I had one in particular that James and I were talking about last night, and this one kind of I don't want to say bothers me, but I've had this long-standing, I don't want to call it a belief or disbelief thing, but my own kind of reservations about precognition. It's been kind of a thing with me. I don't know about that because that gets into the whole thing, fate versus
like you're uncomfortable with
choice. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So
I sympathize. I really do, man.
I remember very few details about the dream, only in the fact that James was there, things were happening, and I was showing. I had the script in my hand, is the best way to describe it. And I was not only showing where
script for what
was in that script, what was going on, basically. As it happened, I had what was going to happen as well in very intricate detail. The thing is, while I was in the dream, I knew I could see it. It's just that I forgot it. And so the first thing I remember waking up was like, I can't wait to call James and tell him what all I saw on this thing. And of course, 2 seconds later, I don't remember crap. But I remember those very small details on that.
I have a small theory on that, Tony. They claim that when you're sleeping, DMT is released in your brain, but also they claim when a person goes on a DMT trip, that when they come back from it, within just a very short few minutes, they forget what they had experienced on that trip.
I've always had that my whole life anyway, so.
Yeah, and I find everybody's different. Some people say, oh, I don't have dreams. Or people say, yeah, like you did. I have dreams, but I don't remember them. But me, I have really vivid dreams, and I almost always remember them.
Well, the Ormus dreams are cool, and I got to say, what I did not know was that paintballs could kill alien spiders, and I learned that this week.
But did you know your daughter could also be a cat that turns into a handkerchief that you put in your pocket later?
I haven't seen that one yet, but my whole family's been in every dream I've been on. It's been a cool week. They're kind of fun.
So it occurred to me actually as I was driving home. I've had really vivid, what I would call lucid dreams. Right, extremely vivid. I'm aware I'm dreaming. They're not Technicolor, but they're super, super vivid. But Keith, it kind of occurred to me as I was driving home, now that I've been taking it for a couple of days, the sheer amount of mental clarity that I've got and sort of brain power really translates very, very cleanly over to what we experienced with Alpha Brain. It's a very, very similar feeling.
Only stronger, it seems.
Yeah, it really is. The amount of just sheer awareness and clarity is awesome.
Yeah.
So dreams. So let's talk about one of the other things that we've noticed is let's just go with emotional disposition. Bill, have you noticed any changes in that area?
Tremendously. Even my wife has noticed it in me. It's just been my personality. It's upbeat, positive, sharp, even at work.
As opposed to your normal asshole tendencies, or
what's
your comparison to?
I'm a prick, but
you must be a jerk usually or something.
Well, hey, you met me.
You seem like a pretty, normal dude.
But, it's a drag to go to work. You have that same old boring crud every day, 5 days a week, and it's been different. It's totally, I feel like a totally different person, like a new dude. It's kind of cool. It's not kind of cool. It is cool. There hasn't been any. I take. Along with the disease, the advanced RA comes depression and anxiety. I take meds for that. I haven't felt that way in at least all week. And like my wife says, "Wow, Mr. Positive." And I get home, I got energy still to get home and do the dishes so that my wife doesn't have to. Stuff like that. It's a different feel.
This is just something I have to throw in there just out of my conscience. But how do you refer to yourself? Like, when someone asks you what your condition is, what do you tell them?
Which condition?
Well, your worst condition. You have like a terminal condition, didn't they? Or it could have been terminal.
Well, it's not terminal, no.
It could have been. It could have been terminal had it been worse, though, right?
No, it'll never kill you. There's no cure for it, and
okay. So it's not terminal. There's not a cure for. I get you.
No, when it get to a point where it advances and it's eating everything up in your tendons and your joints and your whole body, the only way they can fight it is with biologics and infusion drugs, and that's what I'm on. One biologic and one infusion drug. But no, it's not terminal. It'll never.
Well, what do they call it though?
It's called advanced rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, I see.
It's an autoimmune condition. It's not like osteoarthritis where you got your bones growing different ways and falling apart. This is an autoimmune disease. So.
I got you. Okay, so this is totally with Ormus. This is reversible from our best case scenario.
Well, from reading it, one would say that if it was successful and it really does what people say it does, and I'm starting to feel that it is that way. Yeah, it would.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, best case scenario. Yeah.
Maybe not a reversal, but it could stop it a little bit.
So, Tony, what about attitude? You're normally a prick too. So, how does that shake out?
I resemble that remark. It's I can say with certainty that nursing school is very, very stressful, and compounded that with the previous class that I just got out of was way more stressful and way harder than it should have been. We had an instructor that taught one way, tested another, and just made the material incredibly more difficult than it should have been. It stressed everybody out. Everybody's worried about their grades. So you come out of that with a little bit of almost a PTSD type thing rolling into the next class. So, this whole last week's been all about rolling into the first test, not knowing what to expect. Are we going to get the same crap again? And it's gone from being very stressed out to where, hey, I'm good, man. I feel good. I feel kind of more in tune, I guess, with myself and sort of more confidence, and I'm just not letting things bother me. Not sweating.
Yeah, I can sympathize. Actually, the last day or two, I've had a very similar sort of, man, everything is chill, everything is cool. I mean, I'm not a tightly wound guy anyway, but it's tantamount to the chill from smoking a doobie. But it's not a lethargic chill. And in fact, Tony and Keith know me a little bit. I'm not one to just get up and start fucking, building a new back porch or some bullshit like that. I have dudes that I pay to come do that stuff because I don't want to jack with it. Well, it wasn't like that today. Oddly enough, I got out there and I actually fixed what was going on to the back porch. with it sagging and hitting the screen door.
Did you get like a lathe after it, or what? Would you shave off some wood, or what'd you do with that?
No, I had an extra standing post out there, and I cut it off at the base and then cut it down. I actually went to the hardware store. Instead of just buying what I needed and get out, which is what I always would have done, I just pushed my cart all the way around the store, down every aisle, going, oh, I need one of these, I need one of these, I need one of these. That's not like me at all. I don't like
not
people.
Really.
Right.
Yeah, you sure don't like shopping and building shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I fixed the back porch, went shopping, and then felt great. Then I literally sat here and was like, what else can I do? 'Cause I feel great and I got all this energy. So, yeah, I haven't changed anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, keep taking more of that. I got my dad to sit down today and we watched All the Gold You Can Eat. So his response was, yeah, I want to start taking that as soon as possible. So we're going to get set up as soon as we can to start making it. I wanted to talk a little bit, I don't know if you're ready to go there yet, about the different methods of making it. I noticed the water method where the guy was doing
it's called the wet method, yeah.
The wet method versus the other method that you do, which I don't know the title of the method you use. But anyway, I don't know if you're ready to go there or not.
Yeah, sure. I use the wet method too. It's really the simplest method. There are several different ways to make it. You can actually make it from solid gold as well, right? So the whole deal with Ormus.
Yes, I actually just found out about that. You can actually take a file and scrape up actual gold and make it out of that, right?
Absolutely. It's called the sodium burn process, and you burn the gold and turn it into white powder. And there's that's been proven in a lab. Yeah, so for anybody who wants more information, there's a really good book. Just go to Amazon.com and search for Ormus, O-R-M-U-S, and the first 90 pages in that book tells you how to do the wet method.
That is the book I'm reading right now.
Yeah, and the wet method is the easiest method. It's the most inexpensive method. Anybody can do it. You can make Ormus, apparently, I don't know about this stuff, there are different methods to make Ormus that have different concentrations of the monoatomic, supposedly, elements that are in this stuff. The sodium burn method is supposed to produce even higher potency Ormus, but it takes pure gold to do it, so that's awfully expensive compared to the wet method that just uses Dead Sea salt.
Okay, so the method you're using is called the wet method?
Yeah, it's the wet method.
Okay, so what's the other one, though? The guy that had the little thing he was shooting a water hose through, it was making a vortex. He had magnets.
Yeah, that's called a water trap. You can actually buy those online. Essentially, the theory is that Ormus exists in just about all water, but in just sort of minuscule amounts. And if it's not, the stuff, let me rephrase, the potential for Ormus to be in existence is in all water, apparently. So the specific way the magnetic field is set up on that so-called water trap focuses the potential Ormus in the water into an oil-like state. It's said that one of the natural states of Ormus is oil or powder. It always wants to kind of go back to a powdered form, which is why it keeps falling out of solution from the stuff from the wet method.
So that's kind of a hit or miss type thing there. You don't really know what you're getting out of that method, right?
Yeah, I have not played with that type of Ormus.
Okay.
Apparently, experts say that it is Ormus. It's from the water trap that you can buy online, but I just haven't played with it.
Right. Quick question on the wet method that you're using. What type of water do you use?
They recommend that you use distilled water, but even in the book that you're reading now, the Ormus book, let me actually go look that up for the book, this specific book. It's called Ormus: Modern Day Alchemy, a Primer of Ormus Collection Process, Reference Edition by Dennis William H-A-U-C-K and Lewis Johnson. H-A-U-C-K. That's it's like $28 for the paperback. They learned to make Ormus from several different people, but primarily from Don Nance, who is sort of one of the Ormus evangelists who I hope to have on the show at some point. Sorry, I think I lost. What was your question?
I was just going to ask, I was asking about the type of water, because in the back of my head I was thinking, what about the water that comes out of your machine? Would that help in any way if we made Ormus with that water versus distilled?
Yes, actually. So the reason you want distilled water is you don't want any pollutants in the water at all.
Gotcha.
That's going to affect the process. But now I actually do use not the alkalized water. I'm going to play around with that. But I use just the pure water. I've got for those that don't know, I have a Life ionizer. It's a pretty expensive water filter unit that's used to give you ionized water, and you can change the alkalinity or the charge on that ionized water because I'm a big believer in an alkaline diet after a lot of research I've done. But this machine has a very powerful, sophisticated water filter system to clean the water before it ionizes it. So you can also get just regular pure water out of it, and that's what I've been using. Some people who have really, really good tap water, in the book they talk about that a little bit. You can use tap water as long as it's not, I think, fluoridated tap water. You're okay. I am going to try it with making Ormus with the alkalized water to see if I don't need as much lye. But I don't know if it's as I understand it, and I'm not 100% sure on this yet, it's not the changing the pH of the water that releases the Ormus. It's something to do with the lye that you use. It's just that the change in pH is the marker.
Well, I tell you what, I see where you're going. Why don't you go ahead and kind of walk us through for the people listening too, so they'll know. Walk us through the wet method and how it works from start to finish on the wet method of making Ormus.
Sure. So the catalyst you need is food grade lye, LYE. That is, it's very, very caustic, and it's really kind of dangerous to handle. Well, it's not kind of dangerous. It is dangerous to handle. So you want to make a 12% lye solution once you have food grade lye. And to do that, the ratio is half a gallon of water to 1 cup of lye. And you need because this solution is so caustic and so dangerous, you need to either mix it up in something called borosilicate glass. That's a special kind of glass used in laboratories. Or you can use a milk jug or any other HDPE plastic. Milk jugs these days.
Don't be a cheap ass like Jesse Pinkman. You'll rip the bottom out of your bathtub and you'll be screwed. Go buy the right kind of plastic.
You will, actually. The lye will completely eat the plastic. So you just check the milk jug, an empty milk jug or distilled water jug or whatever, turn it over, and if it's got a triangle with a number 2, not a number 1, not a 3, not a 7, not a 4, a 2. If it's got a 2, it's the right kind of plastic in the triangle. So you fill that up halfway with distilled or really, really pure water. You go outside, unless you have a really good vent hood. You get eye protection on, you get gloves on, a long sleeve shirt preferably. You get a plastic tote or something along those lines, and a funnel and this cup of lye. You put the funnel in the milk jug, and then you pour the milk jug or glass jar or whatever you've got that's borosilicate glass. You pour the lye in there and let it go into solution. It's going to turn a brilliant white, and it's going to get really, really fucking hot to the point where the first time I did it, I was a little alarmed. So the chemical reaction as it goes into solution is that it releases all this heat because it's a.
Now, when you say into solution, what is it? What is the lye going directly into at that point?
It's going into solution in water, distilled water or purified water. So you're just making a liquid version of the lye.
And it's just boiling up and getting really hot.
It doesn't boil, but it does get really hot. It gets so hot that I was concerned that the plastic jug might melt.
Wow.
So it was very hot to the touch, not like a super icy hot sort of thing. I should have got something out and measured the heat. So you let that sit out for a while. You want to mix it up, put the milk jug lid on it, and mix it up carefully over your tote container. Because if something spills, you don't want it spilling on you, and you don't want it spilling uncontrolled. You put it in the tote container. And as a safety precaution, you need to have distilled white vinegar on hand. Even with all this other safety stuff, if you get this stuff on you, it is going to burn, a chemical burn. It's going to burn the shit out of you. So distilled white vinegar will neutralize the lye. So you have that on as a safety precaution. Let it sit up, and it may have some fumes or some off gas or something, but let it sit there for a good hour, 2 hours, and that's the catalyst you need for your solution. So then you need it doesn't have to be borosilicate glass, but you need a large, open, wide mouth jar. A pickle jar is what I use, so I've got a couple of those. The giant pickle jars, something that'll take like 3/4 of a gallon to a gallon. You need dead sea salt, a specific kind of dead sea salt. You can also make it with Celtic sea salt, but you don't get as good of results. You don't get nearly as much Ormus. The best salt I found is Bokek, Bokek, dead sea salt. Just order it directly from their website, saltworks.us. You want to put a cup of the dead sea salt into the jar, filled about 3/4 of the way up with water. And
we're talking about the pickle jar or the new jar? The pickle jar?
The pickle jar.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the pickle jar, you've got about 3/4 of the way up with water. You want to put the lid on the jar, or get you a rubber stirrer or a plastic stirrer, or glass would be even better. And you want to stir everything up and make all the salt go into solution. Right? All the salt disappears and it's suspended in the water.
Now, do you usually start with warm water so the salt will dissolve, or do you just use room temperature water?
You can, but there's a complication with that, because you're going to measure the pH, and if it's not, if you don't have a temperature compensating pH meter, having
temperature messes with pH. Yep.
Yeah, that might be problematic. So I don't do that. If you're using Celtic sea salt, because that's all you can get, or you're a lazy fuck and you don't want to order the Bokek sea salt, you have to boil Celtic sea salt first. So you mix it up, and then you boil it for 15 minutes, and it's going to drop a bunch of sand, and it's going to kill everything that's in the Celtic sea salt, because Celtic sea salt still has some bioactivity going on. So you've got to sterilize it first, and then run it through a coffee filter. But if you use Bokek, you don't have to do any of that stuff. So basically what you've got at this point is a jar full of purified water or distilled water and sea salt. That's reconstituted seawater. That's what it is. So, again, gloves, eye protection. Best to do it outdoors, and especially until you get a really good feel for it. You want to get what I use is a plastic spatula, a really good high quality plastic spatula, because you're going to stir the crap out of this stuff as you add the lye. And you're going to need to get the lye. You're going to have to put a lot of lye into this solution, not the powdered lye, the solution you just made, right? So I actually have what's called a wash bottle now, which is basically just a HDPE, and it's that same kind of plastic from the milk jug that's got the triangle and the number 2 wash bottle. And it's the same thing that tattoo artists use to rinse off. It's got like a little hooked straw that comes out of the top, and you squeeze it, and it shoots out a stream. Before I got that bottle, I was actually using just a Pyrex measuring cup for liquid, that's got a spout on it. And then you have your 12% lye solution, and I'm trying to think of what else you need. Oh, the meter.
I was going to say, you were telling me something about some mixing solutions.
Yeah, so you have the liquid solution of lye, which is a 12% lye solution at that ratio, and you're going to pour that into this container, either with a Pyrex measuring cup so you can have some control over the flow, or a wash bottle, which is what I use now. You can use eyedroppers, but you're going to be there for a long time if you use eyedroppers. Turkey baster's not a bad option, but they tend to splash. You do not want to splash lye solution.
Did you see the guy that had on the show, they had the ketchup bottle with the tip cut off of it? You know, like you'd see in an older restaurant, the squeezed ketchup bottle?
Yes, you can use those. I had a really hard time finding one of those in the right plastic. You can find, those are normally made in LDPE plastic, low density.
Yeah.
Which may be okay for a, well, it's not okay. It clearly says that in the book. You either have to use borosilicate glass, or you have to use the number 2 plastic, or the HD, the high density polypropylene plastic, I think.
Yeah, we might have to have a hard time finding that. I don't know. I haven't looked for it yet.
Yeah, but I'm going to put a note in the show links of the wash bottle I've got. You can get it on Amazon, and I've got all this stuff, the meter and everything you need, other than like the glass pickle jar, because I assume if you can't find a glass pickle jar that's big enough to do this, you probably shouldn't be making Ormus.
I think that's a pretty fair judgment.
Yeah, so you've got your reconstituted seawater, you've got your lye solution in a washer bottle or whatever you're going to use to add. Here's the really, really important part. You add, this is a pH process, right? So you're changing the pH of the solution using lye, or changing the pH of the seawater using lye. So you need, they say in the book you can use litmus strips. I tried litmus strips. The litmus strips I got must not have been the right litmus strips, because they weren't accurate enough at all.
Here's the deal on litmus strips. You got to get the right kind. Most of them in the health food stores, they're in 0.5 increments. That's not good enough for this. You need to be able to go in tenths of a point increment.
Yeah, you really do. So there are people who use litmus strips successfully. I did not like the results I got, and in fact, I tried with a litmus strip first. When I waited and then got my meter in, and I measured the batch I tried with the litmus strips, and I had not gotten all of the Ormus out of that solution. So I was going to throw away about half of my Ormus if I didn't have that digital meter. So the digital meter you need, and I'm going to put it up in the show notes. Actually, I'm going to go look it up for folks who don't have a account. Let me go find it real quick. Damn it. I'll cut this silence out.
That, they do make the right litmus strips for that. They're hard to find. You'd have to order them. And really, it's not worth it, because it's better to have a digital meter anyway.
It really is, because you get much better accuracy. So after doing some research, this is not the absolute best meter to get, because the really good meters are, they give you down to 100th of resolution or accuracy. This only gives you down to 1/10, but that's really enough. So you need a Oaktron Eco Tester pH2 waterproof. That's really helpful. pH tester, and it ranges from 0.0 pH to 14 pH, which is the whole scale. It comes pre-calibrated.
0.0.
Yeah. It tests the whole range. So you need this specific meter, or one that is better. The reason I chose this meter is because it's waterproof, and it's the cheapest one that gives you at least down to the 0.1 plus or minus accuracy, that's really important. And we're going to get into that in a second. So you also need a calibration solution, because I've found using this meter on the high end of the scale tends to knock its calibration off a little bit. So you want, I'm using the Atlas Scientific pH calibration solution, again available on Amazon, and I'll put a link to the show notes. There's actually going to be an Amazon list that you click on it, and it's got my comments and everything on how to do it.
Did you say calibration solution?
Yes.
That's how you calibrate it, with solution?
Yeah,
That's pretty tight.
So you order this solution, and it's standardized to 10 pH. So you put what happens is you pour a little capful of this 10 pH solution out. It's blue, and then you turn your meter on and you stick it in there. And if it doesn't say 10, then you hit a couple of buttons it'll tell you in the instruction manual, and you tell you tell it this thing is 10. And
I
then
get you.
from then on, it knows, right? Because that's
I believe 10's base, is it not? Or is 12 base? I think 10's base.
No, everything above 7 is considered base. Everything below 7 is considered accurate. Or acid.
Or acid. Okay.
Yeah. So we're working on the very base side of the scale. So this meter has down to a 10% or a 10th of a point of accuracy, which is perfect for what you're doing. You also need from the same company, Oaktron. It's the WD -00653-04. It's called the electrode storage solution. The meter or the electrode on this meter has to be stored wet in a very specific solution because it's sensitive. So the meter and the calibration solution and the electrode solution is going to run you about $70.
And to be fair, when we're talking about different pH levels, every part of your body has a different optimal pH level. Your heart, your lungs, and all that. Your blood's optimal pH level is 7.36. But we're talking about Ormus. The optimal Ormus level is, you said 10 or 10.5, is it?
So your objective is to get, you're going to add lye solution to the seawater until it gets up to a maximum. The maximum you want to get it to is 10.78. Do not take it above 10.78. If you do, you have to take it back down and then bring it back up. And the book talks about there's a very specific way you have to do that. But the meter has a plus or minus accuracy of 0.10, which means if you can't exceed 10.78, that means on the meter you cannot exceed 10.6. So
I get you. Because of the accuracy. Yeah, that I get you.
Right. So that means you're going to keep adding lye to this solution slowly. You're going to take your stirrer and you're going to stir the crap out of it as you're slowly adding this lye solution with your goggles on, with your gloves on, with vinegar standing by because you're dealing with lye. And you're going to watch this meter, the pH on this meter, go up. It's just going to start climbing, right? But you're going to hit this buffer where it's almost like if you took the top of the washer bottle off and just started pouring the shit in, it's not going to change the pH. It's because there's you have to overcome that buffer. So you just keep slowly adding the lye solution to the batch. That's why I said only fill it up about 3/4, because you're adding this lye solution to it, and you're stirring. So I do it in spurts, or I did it in spurts initially, and still kind of do it in spurts, because what's going to happen is you're pouring lye into the top of the solution as you're stirring, and this meter, you're going to clip it to the top of your jar. It's got a little pocket clip on it. So you just clip it to the top of your jar, and it sits in the solution and tells you what the readout is as you're adding lye to the solution. But you're adding lye at the top, so that's where it's measuring it. So it's artificially high because all the lye is at the top. You're stirring it in. So you add a little lye, or you squirt some lye in there. You stir it, and the meter's going to jump up, and then it's going to start to go down again slowly as the lye distributes throughout the solution. So you add some lye, it's going to go up, you're going to stir it, and then it's going to go down a little bit. You're going to add some lye, you're going to stir it, it's going to go up, and then it's going to go down a little bit. You keep doing that in small increments until you get it to the point. I'll let it flash 10.7 on the meter, and then I'll stir it, and when it stabilizes at 10.6 and no higher than 10.6, so it goes to 10.7, but then it goes back down to 10.6. By that time, your seawater will be milky white. If you're using the Bokek salt, it'll be like a giant glass of milk. It will be very, very...
Very cloudy.
Very cloudy. You can't see your spatula on the other side of it.
Wow.
It's very thick and very viscous. So then you put the lid on the jar, and if the jar has exposed metal on the lid, you put some plastic wrap over the top of the jar, and you screw it down. You use the plastic wrap as a barrier. You close it up, and then you go put this is critically important. You go put this jar somewhere to settle, but you have to put it out of any EM field. It cannot be within 5 feet of anything that uses electricity. not a computer, not a cell phone, not anything on the other side of the wall. It has to be completely free of EM radiation. Ideally, you want to wrap this jar in tin foil and put it in a metal box. You leave it there 24 hours minimum. 48 is better, but 24 hours minimum. You're going to come back to it, and all that white stuff is going to have settled down, and there's going to be a bunch of clear liquid on top. You get a turkey baster or a siphon hose or something along those lines, and you pull all that clear liquid off. Now you're hitting what's called the washing stage. So you've got all this lye in solution. You can't drink lye. Lye's bad for you. It'll make you fall in love with your cousins or something like that, as I understand it. Or it'll really make you go blind, actually. So we have to wash this lye out of solution.
You were talking about EM fields. Hold up for just a second. Could you explain a little bit, because a lot of people aren't familiar with what EM fields are, and I know James and I have kind of a mixed feeling about this. There are some things out there that purport to keep EM fields away from things.
I got a good test for that. We got to talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Just know that there's some things out there. We may talk about them later. I don't want to bring them up now on the podcast because I don't know if they're legit or not. We want to test those out. But could you tell people how to protect their Ormus once they get it completed and everything from EM fields, and let them know what they are in general?
Yeah, so an EM field it's an electromagnetic field, right? So anything that uses electricity produces an EM field. I'm sitting in front of a computer that generates a giant EM field. I've got a fan going and a microphone going. Anything that uses electricity generates an EM field. The more electricity it uses, the stronger the field is. You can actually get meters and measure this, called an EM meter. Just go on Amazon for like $25, and it'll let you measure this field. Ormus is incredibly sensitive to this field. It does not like EM radiation. Reports are that it does not like it so much that if even after putting it in tinfoil, which will shield it from EM radiation, and then putting it in a metal box, which will further shield it from radiation, if you put it next to your power box for your house, assuming there's enough juice going through it, it will actually try so hard to get away from that EM field that it will, in some instances, it's reported to have dissolved glass, or it will push directly through the glass to try to get away from it. It cannot go through, it can't go through the tinfoil, but it will push its way through glass. So, and more importantly, it will render your Ormus completely inert. It's not active at all. So, does that make sense?
Does to me. Got to be really careful about where you put your Ormus.
There was a report in that I read from on one of the documentaries on Ormus, or it was an interview. This guy is making it, and he gives it to people. And he gave a jar of this stuff to a lady, and she kept it in her nightstand underneath her alarm clock. So, a clock radio alarm clock. So that doesn't draw much power, but she didn't have it wrapped in tinfoil. So the alarm clock, just the EM fields from the alarm clock, rendered it completely inert.
Wow, it's super sensitive to it then.
It is incredibly sensitive. So there's only one spot in my house that's really safe for this stuff to hang out. It's the corner of my wife's office. So we have it over there, and if I store it in a metal container, and we're getting better setups. Really, what you need is a really high-powered Faraday cage to store this stuff in. But wrapping it in foil.
Yeah, I'm going to look into some EM protected enclosures.
So, as I understand it, research seems to indicate that the best way to store it is to wrap it in several layers of foil, if that's practical, and then store it in something that is galvanized steel. Apparently, the zinc that's used in the galvanization process is really good at repelling EM fields. And you can test this for yourself by taking your cell phone or a walkie-talkie or something, wrapping it in tinfoil, and throwing it in a galvanized trash can, which is probably what I'm going to end up using before long, and try to call it. And if you have enough tinfoil on it, and it's really a galvanized trash can, your cell phone won't ring because it's blocking that EM radiation. So, protect it from EM radiation.
Very interesting.
The wash process. So you want to do, the standard is 3 washes. So you want to get it set up. Every time you do a wash, you want to double the volume of your Ormus. So let's say in this example, you'll typically have half of the pickle jar will be Ormus. And, after you've taken off the initial settling clear liquid. So you've just got half a jar of Ormus. You want to take purified or distilled water and you want to pour it on top of the Ormus and fill up that jar completely. Put your lid back on it, assuming that it's not exposed metal. If it is, use saran wrap between the lid and the Ormus, and then shake it up. Set it back on the shelf and walk away for 24 to 48 hours. It will separate out again, and the Ormus will fall back down and out of solution for the top part. It'll turn clear on the top, and basically what you've done is you've thinned out the lye solution that you put in there by half. So you're trying to diminish that lye solution as much as possible to make it safe to take. So you once it's settled down again, that's your first wash. You siphon off that clear liquid. You put you fill up the pickle jar again with water. Set it down 24 to 48 hours. Let it fall down again. Siphon that off. And then you wash it again the third time for the final time. Shake it up, put it on the shelf, 24 to 48 hours. Come back and then pull that liquid, the clear liquid, off, leaving the white Ormus on the bottom. And then that is finished Ormus. Some people do 4 washes. Some people do 2. But the standard, as recommended by Don Nance and his students and in the book, is 3 washes. And that's what I've done. If you do less than 3 washes, it's going to taste really salty too, because that's the other thing you're doing is you're washing all the salt out. I didn't worry about it too much in the Celtic sea salt stuff because it took so little of the lye solution to wash out. So I'd only done 2 washes on it before we gave it out to everybody. But there was so little lye in that it really didn't matter.
So the stuff you and I had, it only had 2 washes on it.
Yeah, it had only had 2 washes, and it was it wasn't unpleasant, I wouldn't say, but it was
but it was really salty.
It was really salty. It was like
it's kind of like those with chicken bouillon or something.
Yeah, a little bit like bouillon
without the chicken.
Well, I mean, you guys had that, Bill, Tony. What did it taste like to y'all?
I like it.
Just salty.
Yeah,
throw it on a margarita.
It's viscous, It's one of the names for this stuff is one of the Egyptian names is the semen of the gods. So there's a lot of semen jokes, or the bread of the gods.
Also, it means literally, what is it?
Yeah, well, that's what manna is actually. So David,
right, in Hebrew.
Yeah, so there's this guy David Sutton or David Hutton, I think, who's
David Hutton, yeah.
Yeah, David Hutton, who reports that this stuff is actually what in the Bible is known as manna, which translates to what is it in Hebrew. That's what manna means. So the reported benefits of this stuff, as we understand it, is that it puts your body in a state of reportedly and supposedly in a state such that it can repair itself easily. It doesn't cure anything, but it puts your body, it makes you healthy, supposedly. Again, this is just all sort of conjecture. Makes your body so healthy that it can heal itself easily. And then we're experimenting with the sort of psychoactive / spiritual stuff too. So that was the first time, Bill, Tony, that I think y'all had heard the process. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, was that clear, or how did that? What's your take?
It was pretty clear. I mean, we'd already talked about it.
Sounded clear.
It was pretty clear.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways to make the stuff. The wet method that uses sea salt or reconstituted seawater is what they call it in the book. That's the easiest way to do it. You just got to be really careful with the lye. As long as you're careful with the lye and you're careful with EM radiation, anybody can make this stuff. you get a lot more Ormus, exponentially more Ormus out of the Bokek sea salt as opposed to the Celtic sea salt. Like literally, you will get 3/4 to half a gallon of Ormus out of a cup of the Bokek dead sea salt, as opposed to 1/4 of a cup to half a cup if you use of Ormus per cup of the Celtic sea salt. So there's just exponentially more in the dead sea salt.
We need to start a link page for our listeners too, showing them where they can get products, where they can get their Alpha Brain, where they can get some really good quality green supplements to add to the water, just some green drink they can have, some things like that. We need to start throwing some of that stuff up there. Even give them a link where they can get a water filtration system like you have if they want.
That tells me you haven't been paying attention to our website, because that's already up there.
No, yeah, I looked at it about a week ago. You must have been doing some work since then.
Yeah, it's got a link section, mainly for guests and stuff. I want to get somebody on to talk about the Life Ionizer system that I just bought, and I may look up that author of Sick and Tired to get them on too. So,
Sick and Tired, the author of Sick and Tired is Dr. Robert O. Young.
Yeah, we need to get him on. I don't agree with what he says about mushrooms, but but I do agree with what he says about an alkaline diet.
Well, he's the guy, coincidentally, that produces the green powder drink that I like.
Yeah, and I take that stuff now too. I mix it into my golden milk stuff, so that's awesome stuff.
I have seen the iTunes page, by the way. It looks amazing.
Yeah, doesn't it? That looks so cool, and that was so much harder than I thought it was going to be.
I knew it felt like it was going to be hard.
Yeah, that was difficult. Where you can also use to pull the show down if you don't use the YouTube archive, or if you go to just our website, you can pull down the MP3. But if you use like an RSS or a standard podcast software package, like I use Beyond on my Android, the RSS feed is on our website, labeled on the homepage. You can use that and then pull the MP3 down. There's something wrong with the interview we did with Joe de Kadt, and it doesn't pull down the MP3 file for some reason. So I got to look at that. But you can click on the link, and then it pulls down the MP3 file. It just doesn't do it like everybody else.
Huh, interesting. So is Bill still there? Did they have anything else they wanted to say or about their experiences, or Tony? Or they pretty much covered it all?
I think we pretty much covered
most everything. Yeah.
It's a little early.
We're just getting started in.
Okay.
We don't have that whole lot of experience yet. It's something we can follow up on later on.
There is through with my second bottle.
One thing I did wanted to ask, because this is something that kind of came up, and y'all may have answered this earlier. I don't remember. Do you feel like it seems like it's a cumulative effects?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course.
Very good then. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's pretty apparent once you start taking it, and you'll see that pretty clearly. I'm gonna probably send a bottle to you Monday or so, because I've got some extra, and I'd like to do a couple of follow-up shows as time goes on. We're obviously we're doing video logs, and we're going to try to do a documentary, but I'd like to check in with you guys over time and do a follow-up episode and just see how everybody's doing.
Yeah, I think we want to arrange a few experiments too, from what y'all were talking about. Well, we'll get that figured out too.
And Keith, I'm going to burn your chair.
You can still hear this damn chair.
Yep. All right, guys, it's fun, and I'm tired of talking now, so I'm going to go drink some beer.
Right.
I appreciate y'all jumping in. By the way, this is the first time you've been on the podcast, Bill, from the band Curd. You did our intro music, and you did such a fabulous job.
Thank you.
I love that intro music, man.
Thank you. I'll have to write you an outro now.
I second that, man. I dig that music. Great job, man. Great job.
So
I did catch some of your music on iTunes, by the way. Great stuff there too.
Finding out I'm all over the place. Huh?
Yeah, no, you're doing something right, man. So officially on the air, thank you for doing that intro. It's awesome.
Oh,
Man.
it's a pleasure. And I'll do it again and again.
So, okay, that's all we got. And Keith, don't forget we've got a follow-up interview tomorrow, or an interview tomorrow, so we're good to go.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys. We appreciate y'all taking some time to share your experiences.
Cool. Ciao.
Absolutely.
Later.
Later.
Later.